Welcome to today's brief talk on why I think these highway code rules are not working. And quite simply put, because today I was almost run over. So my family and I were crossing the road. In fact, we'd already begun to cross the road. We were 2 or 3 steps into the road when another car came down. It was a T-junction to turn into the road that we were crossing at speed, and she gestured at us in anger that we shouldn't be in the way, we shouldn't be in the road. And so naturally we pulled back immediately just before she sped past us, gesturing that we shouldn't be there. Now, as I've said in previous videos, she either didn't know about the new rules, didn't care about the new rules, and in any event didn't care for the fact that we were already in the road in the first place. Now, even in the old rules, the rules that have been in place for some time, if we were already in the road, already crossing the road, then we had a priority. Now, it's not a right of way, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute, because this is something that many people misunderstand as well. So it's not that we had a right of way, but we had a priority because we were already crossing the road. So new rules notwithstanding, which for those of you that are not yet familiar, if we are waiting to cross and the vehicle comes down to turn into the road that we are waiting to cross, the vehicle is to stop and give way to allow us to cross the road, irrespective of whether there's another vehicle behind them, irrespective of any other vehicles coming and so on. This vehicle is supposed to give way to us because we now as pedestrians have priority to cross the road. Not a right of way, but as I said, I'll come back to that. Now, some people have commented in response to my previous videos that I'm upset that vehicles have lost their priority on the road, and that's absolutely not the case, because sometimes I'm a pedestrian, and sometimes I'm a cyclist, and sometimes, yes, I'm a driver. So I'm not upset about any of this either way. I just don't think it worked. And my experience today is yet another example where that is absolutely true. Because as I said, she either didn't know about the new rules, she either didn't care for the new rules, or in any event, she didn't know or care about the existing rules that have been there for a long time. Because we were already crossing the road and she was some 30-40 feet away, albeit approaching this junction at speed. So she approached this junction at speed, she turned into it practically on 2 wheels, gestured that we shouldn't be in the road and in her way. So naturally we pulled back. She revved past as if to say, you shouldn't be in the road because you're in my way. And obviously we just pulled back and then we crossed the road safely after that. So now vehicles are supposed to stop and wait to give priority to pedestrians waiting to cross the road. But I suggest that many people who are waiting to cross the road are not going to take that chance. Even today, when it was clear when we started to cross the road, it just goes to prove the point that regardless of new rules, whether people know about them or not, and whether they follow them or not, you have to have wits about you and you still have to remain aware. But as I said in my previous video, this is going to cause even more confusion to drivers that don't know about the rules where pedestrians do, or drivers do know about the rules but pedestrians don't, or worse still, how can you explain this to children when they are told to stop and wait until the road is clear? Are we now expected to say that they can stop and wait, but if the car stops then you can cross? But that's just even more confusing to children. It is much more straightforward, I humbly suggest, to stop and wait until the road is clear. But then we come to the issue of guide and assistance dogs, which I mentioned in my previous video, which warrants repeating because the person using a guide or assistance dog is obviously going to rely on that dog to let them know that it's safe to cross the road. Those dogs, as per the BBC clip that I used in my previous video, they are trained to stop and wait until the road is clear. They are not going to suggest to their owner or indicate to their owner that it's safe to cross the road if there's a vehicle there. Or even if they do, because the vehicle stopped, then there's this moment in between of what I might only term high risk. Is the dog going to allow the owner to cross the road? Is the vehicle going to go thinking that they've actually stopped and there's this kind of standoff? But either way, judging by my experience today, I was practically almost ran over when I did have priority on the road with my family crossing the road. But let's come back to this word of priority as against right of way. I've talked in other videos where many people think there is a right of way in different situations. Now, this is actually not true. There is no such thing as a right of way. A right means it's something that you have the absolute right to do or to have, and nobody can rightfully take that away from you. such as the Human Rights Act and the rights therein. Some of them are absolute rights, some of them are qualified rights. Absolute right means you have the right to something and nobody can detract from that right. A qualified right is, well, you have the right to it, but the government can interfere with it now and again if it's deemed to be in the public interest, public safety, or there's a legitimately good reason for doing so. Now bringing this to the highway code, there is no right of way. No one person or pedestrian or cyclist or vehicle or whoever has a right of way over any other vehicle. The highway code itself states that it does not give anyone a right of way. It merely provides for priorities. And then if you breach these priorities and there's a collision and the court is looking to blame somebody, the court is looking to assign liability for a collision on a particular driver or couple of people, then the court is going to look to the rules and whether you've broke any of these rules. So that's where we look to priority. So in my situation today, absolutely, even without the new rules, I had priority with my family crossing the road, and if the driver had have collided with either one of us, the driver would be at fault. But this is only going to work if there is a significant and satisfactory amount of marketing and awareness campaigns as to these new rules, which of course, in my view, there hasn't been. But in some situations, with the best will and the best intentions, I just don't think they're going to work, because some drivers are not going to follow them, some pedestrians are not going to trust them, and not least of all, those who are helped by assistants and guide dogs, well, I have no idea how these rules are supposed to assist them. So at the very least, in my view, these rules need to be reviewed properly and maybe amended. So to that end, I've created a petition which is linked below, so please go ahead and sign that, because I do think these rules need to be reviewed properly and thoroughly, and at the very least tested, so that if the conclusion really is that these are the best rules to follow, so be it, let's follow them, but I just don't believe that they've been tested sufficiently. But of course, at the end of the day, time will tell. So please check out the petition, please remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching.